Hey there, all you creepy crawlies. It's me, Onion Creature, and I have news for you, and that's that LEGO Animal Crossing is soon to become a reality, as announced quite recently. This is big news for someone like me, who is an avid enjoyer of both Animal Crossing and LEGO. So seeing a new Nintendo theme is really somewhat unprecedented and quite cool. Before we continue, I'm going to introduce to you the newest member of the Onion Creature cinematic universe. Give a warm welcome to Planty. Planty will be joining us on our video adventures from here on out. What do you have to say about that, Planty?
The darkness that festers within shall not be unquenched.
Good one. Moving on. This was leaked a little while ago, so I had an inkling that this was going to happen, but seeing the reality of it is quite exciting. And so this is a pretty humble start to the theme. They're starting with relatively cheap sets, which is kind of rare for LEGO at this point. And they look to be more, kid-friendly, as it were. It looks to be aiming to that sort of playsets demographic, which is logical, given that one of its primary demographics is the youth of the world. It does not seem to feature any electronic components like the LEGO Super Mario sets did. I think the LEGO Super Mario sets worked for what they are, that sort of unique course system. But for this Animal Crossing thing, they're sort of taking a whole different approach. They're using minifigures for the characters, which look really great. And, there's so much potential with these LEGO minifigures. There's over 300 villagers, I think, something like that. So I don't know if they'll get to all of them, but certainly there's a lot of potential to have them in different sets. They could also do blind minifigure boxes. Now they're doing boxes as opposed to bags, but they could definitely do a few series of that. I could definitely see some fan favorite villagers becoming extremely popular, as they did. I think some of the amiibo cards were really sought after for some time, which leads me to believe that those same villagers will quite likely be sought after in LEGO form. And I really like what they did here. They seem to be sort of minimal in terms of the leg printing and arm printing, sort of additional printing, more simplistic minifigure character designs, which I think works. There's a good mix of regular legs, mid legs, and short legs for the different character heights. And then each of the different animals has a specified head mold. We haven't seen any villagers yet, the human villagers. Presumably they will be included in some form, I would have to assume. But yeah, this is a great new theme, and one of the reasons I want to bring it up is because I think it does point to the potential of future Nintendo sets, which I think having Animal Crossing as the second LEGO Nintendo theme is extremely logical. If you look at sales numbers, of course, especially with New Horizons, it does really rival Mario in terms of sales, just exceptionally popular. Definitely I can see adult collectors getting into this for its unique character designs, and if you're a longtime fan of the series, it's pretty cool to have a LEGO set of it. And for the youth, Animal Crossing has really appealing iconography, so having that in a LEGO set, even as a standalone thing, if you don't know what Animal Crossing is, I think this would be a very approachable and appealing line of sets. One of the reasons I wanted to bring this up most of all is I want to discuss the possibility of future Nintendo sets. We do have an inkling that there is another Nintendo series that is going to be translated into LEGO, and that is a leak related to The Legend of Zelda. There were some images. This was a pretty big leak earlier in the year, and in it was basically the Great Deku Tree from The Legend of Zelda. The images showcased two variants, one both included in the same set. It's a 2-in-1 like a LEGO Creator, and one is the Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time, and the other is the Deku Tree from Breath of the Wild. But those are preliminary images. It was an unfinished design, not supposed to be seen by the public, and technically it might not happen. However, some of the sets that did leak in this giant leak have been revealed, so there's a very good chance, in my opinion, that that will happen. And if it does, it's a pretty big deal. I think the set was purported to be pretty pricey, $200, so it'd definitely be a collector's item at that price point. But still a really cool addition to the LEGO catalog is to have a Zelda set. Personally, I think it's a good choice, slightly more interesting than just doing, I think, the second most obvious choice, which would be maybe Hyrule Castle. We do have a lot of LEGO castles pre-existing, so that would be a pretty big deal if that does end up being released. But then it does open up the possibility of what other Nintendo sets could we see. There are only a handful of Nintendo licenses which are currently housed with other brick building products, and off the top of my head I can think of Pokemon has I think it's Mega Bloks or Mega Constructs, whatever that's called, and then there's also Pokemon Nano Blocks. And with the Pokemon stuff, that's through the Pokemon Company, so it's not exactly through Nintendo specifically, they're just part of the Pokemon Company. But with the Kirby sets, though, it's through Nintendo and HAL Laboratory. You see them on every figure. They have the copyright N/H at the back to signify that they are in fact copyrighted by Nintendo. So I don't know if that would be a barrier for Kirby specifically. Yeah, I think Pokemon is probably the next most obvious thing to be done in a Lego set, but I think it is quite a bit more difficult. So I could see that happening. I don't know if that probably wouldn't be anytime soon, because the Pokemon license just seems to have been with this Mega Constructs for a very long time. So moving on from that, I think, we have Kirby. There has been a Kirby line of Nano Blocks. I don't know if that would be a barrier. I do enjoy the Kirby Nano Blocks. I do a review of every wave. I'll be doing a review of the upcoming sets later in the fall, I believe is when they're releasing. So I would say that is somewhat less likely at this point. Potentially sometime in the future, I would definitely put that later on down the line. In terms of other series that could get Lego sets, there have been very popular Metroid, specifically I've seen a few of Samus's Gunship. It's difficult to say whether Metroid has the iconicness as a franchise to be translated into a Lego set. If it were, I think Samus's Gunship is a good candidate. Vehicles tends to be good fodder for Lego. So I would put a maybe on that one. I do think that Lego will stick with just having Animal Crossing and maybe Mario as their main Nintendo series, and then we might get these one-off collector item sets like the Zelda Deku Tree. But it would be really great to see a full line of sets for Zelda. Sets based on Tears of the Kingdom would be extremely logical. So much of that game is about building vehicles. I could certainly envision a set in which you are given just different elements of vehicles from Tears of the Kingdom that you can combine in any way you want in order to create your own vehicles, your own custom vehicles. I think that would make total sense. And, I could certainly see this Zelda set selling well, and we could see something like what happened with Sonic the Hedgehog, where they had the Lego Ideas Sonic the Hedgehog set, and then a year later this year they released the full line of Sonic the Hedgehog playsets. So I could certainly see that happening with Zelda, since this Deku Tree set was quite likely going to sell exceptionally well. I think Zelda as a full line is definitely a very high contender, and then I think it would really be great to get some slightly smaller series in that collector line, like the Samus Gunship, and then Pokemon potentially sometime down the line, but I don't know when that would be. I just think there's huge potential. I think Lego and Nintendo, in terms of branding, are pretty perfect matches for each other. I think it's definitely time for the scope of Nintendo and Lego collaborations to expand, so I'm really glad to see that happening. And just this Animal Crossing line looks very promising. The minifigures look great. Hopefully we end up getting some more obscure franchises, like a Blue Falcon set would be pretty amazing. Smash Bros. Lego sets were something I considered, but then I remembered recently Masahiro Sakurai on his YouTube channel had a video in which he discussed Smash Bros. Merchandise, and that it's apparently very difficult to license, which is why it doesn't really exist outside of Amiibos. So actually a Smash Bros. Line of Lego sets would probably be one of the least likely, based on my perception of that statement, but I guess you never know. Another one I just thought of, Splatoon. I think you could come up with something interesting in terms of the turf control mechanic. They could come up with some pretty interesting sets based on that, and it is quite popular, so that's certainly not impossible. I saw the Lego Animal Crossing news and thought that would make for a decent discussion point in a video. So thank you for tuning in. Say goodbye, Planty.